All right, you guys, welcome to distributive property. This was something you should have learned in middle school, but we're going to review it, make sure that you're okay with it, because it's going to be embedded into equations that we're getting ready to start once we finish up this review unit. Okay? All right, so let us jump right in. I've got 2 parentheses, negative 4p minus 6 minus 5p. All right, and if you remember when you distribute, okay, your distributive property is bounded to whatever's in the parentheses. So when you take this 2 and you distribute, you draw these arrows. That's just a good recommendation. So you remember that you have 2 steps because you have 2 terms in the parentheses, but you stop there. We are not going to multiply 2 by this term right here because it is outside the parentheses. So you only distribute here, okay? So everything inside here is going to get multiplied by a 2. All right? So 2 times negative 4, okay? The p is just going to tag along into the next step. 2 times negative 4, well, that's going to give me negative 8p. 2 times negative 6, negative 12. And then I'm just going to copy minus 5p. Okay? So that's the new part for today. What you're going to do now is you're going to take what we learned yesterday or our review from yesterday, and we're going to combine like terms. So our like terms are the negative 8p along with the negative 5p. And negative 12 doesn't have another term, so it's just going to get recopied in the next step. All right, so negative 8 minus 5, negative 13p, and then I'm just going to recopy negative 12. And there's my final answer. Now, I am going to show you something on Delta Math. I'm going to type it in backwards. And what I mean by backwards is I'm going to type the negative 12 first. So I'm going to type negative 12, and then I'm going to type minus 13p. All right, notice that that is the same statement. I've just got the terms, okay? So if this was term 1, and this was term 2, okay? Keeping those negative signs attached to them, I've just written term 2 first and then term 1. And that's okay, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. So let's submit our work. Yes, there we go. So, and you can see he counted it correctly, okay? Because mathematically, it's the same answer. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's try another one. Problem type. Okay, so we did this one. Yep, let's do one like this. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to make sure I cycle through every problem type in this video. So 3 parentheses, 7u plus 4 minus 10 parentheses, negative 4u plus 9. Okay, so we've got 2 sets of parentheses. So that means we're going to be doing the distributive property twice. All right, so 3 is going to get multiplied by 7u and by 4. And then negative 10. Now, if this helps you do this, circle the negative 10 so you know you're multiplying by negative 10 and not just 10. So you're going to multiply by negative 10 in both of these parentheses. Okay? So whatever little things you can do that'll help you remember mathematically what to do correctly, please do those. All right, so 3 times 7u, 21u. 3 times 4 plus 12. Okay, now we talked about neatness of work in another video. You'll see it later. Okay, but make sure you're writing your work neatly. You can see, like, I'm trying to line things up as I work through the problem. I'm really focusing on making sure I have neat work, okay, because it helps me when I have to start combining like terms. All right, so now negative 10 times negative 4, that's positive 40u. Okay, so that negative times a negative became a positive. All right, and then negative 10 times 9 is negative 90. All right, now I'm going to combine like terms. So 21u and 40u are like terms, and then 12 and negative 90 are like terms. Okay, so notice how I've differentiated between colors. All right, now remember, if you're not confident with your positive and negative numbers, okay, I even use a calculator to check my work just because I'm making a video and I would hate to mess up. All right, so 21 plus 40, that is 61U, and then 12, clear, 12 minus 90, or 12 plus negative 90, is minus 78. Okay. All right. Now, just making sure so you can see and you can get convinced that if I were to have my terms in another order, what would it look like? For one, negative 78 plus 61U. Now, sorry about that. Okay. Let's talk about the two versions. I'll be honest, the one that's written on my paper, that's the one we want to see. We want our variables first in the statement and our numbers at the end. But I need you to understand that if this is what you got and you typed it in, it's going to be counted correct. Okay, you just got to make sure you type it in correctly. Okay, that you've got that negative 78 as being negative, and you've got plus 61. Because if you had typed 78 minus 61U because there was a minus sign there, it's not accurate. Okay, all right. So let's go to a new problem. Okay, all right. So we've got negative 10F minus 6 parentheses negative 9F plus 2. Okay. All right. So another great problem. All right. Now I do have parentheses, which I'm distributing, but just the whole point of this video is to practice distributive property. Okay. But I need to distribute this 6. Now that 6 has a minus sign in front of it, which means, this is why I said if it helps, circle it and draw your arrows. Okay, whatever works for you, because here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to try to multiply by negative 10. Okay, and I don't want you to forget that you had a negative sign. Okay, now this negative 10F is not going to do anything, so I'm just going to bring it down. Negative 10F. Now I'm going to multiply, and I'll write my step here as my next line of work. Negative 6 times negative 9 is positive 54. So plus 54, don't forget your F, because you have an F here. Negative 6 times 2, negative 12. All right, I'm going to combine like terms. So those are my like terms. 12, negative 12 is all on its own in this problem. That's okay. So negative 10 plus 54, that's going to be 44F minus 12. So if I type that in, 44F minus 12. Got my green check. All right, new problem. We've done that. All right. So negative 3, parentheses, negative 4G minus 6G minus 2, parentheses, minus 8G. Okay. You've got a couple of different approaches for this one, but I think most of you probably would just jump right into your distributive property. So I'm going to do the same thing, okay? And if you realize what the other approach is and you want to email me and say, hey, is it okay if I do that? I'll confirm that, okay? All right, so negative 3 needs to be distributed 3 times, okay? Because there are 3 terms inside the parentheses. So negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12G. Negative 3 times negative 6, positive 18G. Negative 3 times negative 2, positive 6. Now, here's what I see happen too when students are working on the problems. They move on, okay? And they just keep adding up 12G and 18G, and they're good. They're like, hey, I got the problem wrong. You cannot forget that this term is written outside the parentheses and it needs to be rewritten in the next step. Okay. Again, this is why I make such a big deal about work being as neat as possible. All right, so now I've got all these G terms. So all three of these are like terms, okay? Now, if you're using a graphing calculator, type it in all at once. Type 12 plus 18 minus 8. So I get 22G. And then 6 is all by itself, plus 6. Okay, notice it is not 28G. Okay, these are not like terms, so you cannot add them. Okay, think of it as animals. So if G is for goats, okay, and 6 is for pick any different animal, okay, because you don't even have a variable to pick from. Okay, you could say that 22 is goats and this is 6 trees, okay, since it's not an animal. Okay, you're not going to add your goats and your trees. Okay, these are different, which means they stay separate. Okay. All right, so 22G plus 6. Yes, and there we go. Okay, and Delta Math, he brought in the other version. Okay, so if you saw that, you're like, can I do that? Yeah, you can. Okay. All right, new problem. And this should be the last one, and it is. Okay, all right. Now, I'll be honest. If you can do this problem, hey, you can do anything. Okay, you can do anything that has distributive property in it. Okay, because you definitely understand all the different things that are happening in the problem. Okay, let me straighten that up. Okay, so -7 parentheses 2u minus 6v. Okay, that tells me right there I got two different terms in there. Okay, I've got u's and I've got v's. Minus 7v minus 3 parentheses 10v plus u. Okay. All right. So -7 will get distributed there. -3 will get distributed there. Okay, which means nothing's going to happen with -7v except it's going to tag along. Okay. All right, so -7 times 2, -14u. -7 times -6 plus 42v. Negative times a negative is a positive. Bring down -7v. -3 times 10, -30v. -3 times u, -3u. Because remember, there's a 1 in front of that u, okay? So if you're wondering about that, there's a 1 there. So -3 times 1 was -3. Okay. All right. I have u, and I have a u. I've got a v, and a v. Okay. All right. So -14 and -3. Those are what's going to be combined. That's going to give me -17u. All right, I'm going to use my calculator. I'm going to type it all in one statement. 42 minus 7 minus 30. Okay, 42 minus 7 minus 30. So that's 5. And don't forget to write that v. Okay, so -17, oops, -17u plus 5v. Okay, submit my answer. There you go. Okay. All right, so there's your review of distributive property. There is a sample now of every problem you might see in the problems that have been assigned to you. If you need help, let me know, email me or remind, and good luck, you guys.